Before we get started, if we could all stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. You may be seated. And welcome. My name is Steve Luce, and I will be this morning's Hillsborough County Land Use Hearing Officer. This is a November 17th, 2025 LUO hearing. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce Colleen Marshall from Hillsborough County Development Services staff, who will introduce other staff members and go over any changes to the agenda. Colleen?
Good morning, Colleen Marshall, Development Services. To my left is Mary Dorman of the Hillsborough County Attorney's Office. To my right is Carmen Mason, Development Services staff. During the course of the hearing, a number of other staff planners will be presenting their findings for various cases and will be introduced for each item. We have no changes to the published agenda.
All right, very good. Thank you. I have a few instructions to read into record. It'll only take a few minutes. I believe then the County Attorney's Office will have a few instructions to read into the record, and then we'll get started with this morning's agenda. Our hearing today consists of agenda items that require a public hearing by the Land Use Hearing Officer. I will conduct a hearing on each agenda item and will file a decision within 15 working days after the conclusion of today's hearing. Our hearing will be informal. I will ask questions related to the scope of direct testimony. I may call and question witnesses as I deem appropriate, and I will decide all questions of procedure. I will take evidence, but will exclude evidence that is irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious. Evidence may be presented in a written form, and all testimony must be under oath. Hearsay evidence may be used to supplement or explain other evidence, but shall not be sufficient alone to support a finding by me unless it would be admissible over objections in a civil action. Regarding the order of presentations with respect to variances, the Development Services staff presents their report and their findings. They have 5 minutes for that purpose. The applicant will then have 15 minutes to present their case. Proponents will have 15 minutes in total. Then opponents will have 15 minutes. Development Services will then have time to address any findings in the reports and provide additional comments. They have 5 minutes for that purpose. And finally, the applicant will have a maximum of 5 minutes for rebuttal. We have one special use on the agenda, last item on today's agenda, so let me just read into the record the order of presentation for that one item only. The applicant presents their special use request, and they have 15 minutes for that purpose. The Development Services staff presents their report and findings, and they have 5 minutes. The Planning Commission presents findings of consistency with the comprehensive plan as needed. They have 5 minutes for that purpose. Proponents, those people in support of an application, will have 15 minutes. And opponents, those people opposed, will have a maximum of 15 minutes for their comments. Then Development Services will have 5 minutes to address any findings of their own. And then finally, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. Regarding the time of proponents and opponents, the 15-minute time frame is the total time for each category. If there are a number of people to speak, we'll add up the total number of people, and the 15 minutes will be divided as equally as possible. You may wish to designate a single spokesperson to more efficiently use the time. When you come up to the podium to speak, please start by giving your name and address for the record. The meeting is being recorded, and we will want to make sure we accurately document who is speaking on the record. When you are done speaking, please sign in with the clerk's office with your name, address, and the application number of the agenda item you are speaking to. At this point in time, the county attorney will now provide the legal requirements for appealing a decision made by the land use hearing officer.
Okay. Mary Dorman from the County Attorney's Office. This land use hearing officer public hearing is for variance and special use requests. This is the time for interested parties to present evidence and testimony. Once the land use hearing officer has closed a case, the record of that case is also closed, and no new evidence regarding that case may be submitted thereafter. Any decision by the land use hearing officer may be appealed to the Land Use Appeals Board. Should a decision be appealed, the record evidence, including the testimony presented at this public hearing, shall be the only evidence that is subject to review by the Land Use Appeals Board. In reaching a decision on petitions, the Land Use Appeals Board will only consider the decision of the land use hearing officer and the record evidence, including any evidence from this public hearing. If an appeal is filed, the Land Use Appeals Board hearing shall consist of oral argument by the party appealing the decision, county staff, and any interveners, each of whom may be represented by legal counsel. The following shall have standing to appeal a decision of the land use hearing officer or to intervene in an appeal. 1, the applicant, or 2, anyone who appeared before the land use hearing officer, presented testimony or other evidence, and is adversely affected by the decision of the land use hearing officer. It is the role of the county attorney's office to ensure that no new evidence or testimony is allowed before the Land Use Appeals Board that was not presented to the land use hearing officer at today's hearing. The county attorney will recommend that the Land Use Appeals Board disregard evidence or testimony that is outside the record made at today's public hearing. Any evidence presented to the Land Use Appeals Board that is outside of the record could jeopardize the legality of the Land Use Appeals Board decision, and the presenter of that evidence could hurt their own cause. The safest course of action, then, is for you to write down any comments you make today and repeat them to the Land Use Appeals Board.
Okay, thank you. All testimony will be provided under oath. Therefore, if you plan to speak, please stand and raise your right hand so that I may swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yeah, thank you. You may be seated. Okay, Ms. Marshall, at this point in time, can you introduce the first item?
Today's agenda, we have no vested rights, fee waivers, remands, reconsideration requests, or site development variance requests, which brings us to Section G, sign variance requests. Item G1, variance 25-1369. The applicant is Todd Pressman. The request is a variance to sign requirements. Staff findings will be presented by Sam Ball.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sam Ball of Hillsborough County Development Services. The applicant is requesting multiple variances to increase the allowable aggregate sign area of 2 ground signs and reduce the required front setback of 1 ground sign. Section 7030C2B1 of the LDC restricts the maximum area of the proposed pole sign facing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to 100 square feet of aggregate sign area and a maximum sign area of 50 square feet per face. The applicant is requesting a 126 square foot increase to the allowable sign area per face and a 252 square foot increase to the total monument sign area, which would result in a pole sign with 176 square feet per face and an aggregate sign area of 352 square feet. Section LDC 7030C1C requires that a 13-foot, 6-inch tall monument sign have at least a 25-foot front setback. The applicant is requesting a 20-foot minimum setback reduction to allow the sign to have a 5-foot front setback from Mango Road. Section 73CB21 of the LDC restricts the maximum sign area of the proposed monument sign facing Mango Road to 100 square feet of aggregate sign area and a maximum sign area per face of 50 square feet. The applicant is requesting an increase to the allowable sign area per sign face by 50 square feet and an increase in total monument sign area of 100 square feet, which will result in a monument sign of 100 square feet per face and an aggregate sign area of 200 square feet facing Mango Road. If you have no other questions, if you have any questions, otherwise this concludes my report.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I have no questions at this time.
All right,
At this point in time, the applicant.
Good Good morning, Mr. Hearing Officer and board members. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg, Florida. I do have a PowerPoint for you, if we could pull that up, please. There we are. This is variance 25-1369. We're located in the Seffner area, looking a little closer at the corner of Mango Road and MLK Jr. is shown here by the property appraiser. It's actually two parcels, as you can see here, has right-of-way roadways that surround the site from Mango, MLK, and residential streets, Highview and Terry Lane. Totally comprises 31.30 acres. It's quite a large site. What generates this request is that the shopping center is under new owners. It's a very big upgrade, which was approved under 250265. 40,000 square foot of new retail. Permits already been submitted. And one of the important aspects is that all the wall signs will be oriented towards the interior, lessening or reducing impacts to the exterior. And as the staff well presented, this is an issue for two freestanding signs. So one sign, as you can see here, is located on Mango Road at the north entrance. The other sign is located on MLK Jr. at the main entrance. So orientation for you, hearing officer, are these two signs. On MLK, the sign is existing already as shown, and this is what is proposed. The existing sign is currently 137 square feet per face. What's allowed, as indicated by staff, is 50 square feet per face. Proposed is 176 square feet per face, so it's a variance of 126 square feet per face. There's no structural changes. The only changes are in the faces and how the faces of the signs are presented. And again, that would be located at the main entrance on MLK, as you can see here. Now, the other sign, this would be even a closer view and plan of the existing multi-tenant. The other sign on Mango Road is a monument style, as indicated here. And again, showing the orientation and location on Mango Road at the north entrance. And a photo showing that location where it is proposed. That variance follows that the sign there is allowed 50 square feet per face, proposed at 100 square feet per face. So that's a variance of 50 square feet per face. There's a second element, which is the setback. The sign is allowed at a 25-foot front setback. We're seeking a 5-foot setback, so that's a variance of 20 feet. So that covers both signs very clearly as what's proposed under the variances. And this would be a site plan illustration of the 5-foot setback of the monument sign. The main direction here in support of this request is that the sign code has a difficulty presenting itself on very large sites. It doesn't recognize large square footages. It doesn't recognize distances. And as it applies to the site, it just does not do a very good job, which creates a hardship. So, for example, if you look at how the sign code applies freestanding signage, it would allow, per my calculation, quite a number of signs on all the roadways, 2 of which are residential. That's not where we want to have freestanding signs. That's not where we want to place that kind of signage. We want to place commercial signage where it belongs, which is on Mango and MLK. And actually, as you can see, each roadway provides a pretty much substantial signage. In a bar graph, I have the math. What we're proposing is a total of 276 square feet per face. Under code, with all those freestanding signs, would allow 500 square feet per face. So in actuality, per what the sign code would allow, we're actually just a little bit over half, but we want to modify and place signage where it belongs. We're also dealing with huge distances to overcome, again, 31.30 acres. So from the Mango roadway, I have that distance measurement for signage at 820 feet, more or less. And from MLK, it's roughly, is 800 feet MOL. So the wall signage is not effective, particularly they're also seeking to put wall signage into the interior, but it's important and critical that there's some designation on the roadways that's easily and cleanly discerned by vehicular traffic. The site is also pushed back from MLK where the stormwater is located. I have it about 300 feet on one side and 220 feet on the other, which creates a hardship in regard to visibility from the roadway. And this is just a view of how that stormwater affects the shopping center, as you can see. Now, the other element for hardship and to address is to be sure that we're providing very clear access points and there's no confusion by the public. So when you look at Highview Road, I have an arrow there. We don't want people coming down MLK and thinking that they can access on Highview because they can't. We want to be sure that we have very clear, visible signage for that segment of roadway that they know where that access is. Likewise, on Mango, we want to be sure that people clearly have very visible and clean signage at that entrance so that they're not missing it coming all the way through the intersection, coming all the way around an MLK, which is 6 lanes with a median cut and causing more traffic patterns and more traffic, not conflicts, but left turns in and issues of that nature. When you look at the roadway, you see it is a busy roadway. I have it as 6 lanes. And the shopping center obviously generates traffic, but we want to, again, be sure we're being most efficient with signage as access points for the shopping center. Now, in regard to the setback on Mango Road, we want to be sure that we're not too far back, that we're losing visibility. So the monument sign under code is required to be at 25 feet from the front setback. Under that basis in the plan, that puts it in the parking lot, which of course is not a good orientation or situation. We want to move it up towards the roadway, which we've done, and we believe is the best location for that monument sign. So looking at the variance criteria, which obviously I've responded to at certain points, there is a difficulty or hardship in how the sign code presents itself to the property, which is a large property which has a lot of unique and singular circumstances that are shown you. It would deprive rights, we feel, of the property in regard to being able to have signage that the sign code calls for visibility and functional signage to get a minimal message out. We don't see how it would interfere with rights of others. We've moved all the property away from the residential. It's in the commercial. I did check online last night. There were no letters of opposition, and we did send out 51 separate notices to the public. We've had no response. I don't know if anyone's here today. We feel that it is in harmony with and serves the general intent of the LDC was to provide signage that is minimal, that is visible, and supports the shopping center. And it's certainly not an illegal act because neither the signs are up or on the site. And we do feel will result in substantial justice for the public benefits as indicated and the individual hardships of the property. So with that, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them for you. Thank you.
No questions, but I think during your presentation you mentioned maybe your first slide or second slide about some rezoning or prior action.
Yeah, the site had been approved for, and the representative here, but I was just making aware that what generates this is a really large refurbishment and renovation of the center, which has already been approved, and signage is following up on all that. So that's been approved and permits already been submitted for that zoning approval.
But it's not changing the nature of what the land uses will be.
No, no, it stays relatively the same. There's some improvements, some added square footage.
All right, very good. And then just one more question for the record is that the northbound direction on, I guess it's Mango, the
Correct.
southernmost connection point to the shopping center, looks like does not allow northbound left turns in, so that it seems to me that the appropriate location for northbound lefts is where you're proposing that sign?
That's our opinion and our thought, yes. That would be the north driveway access point, yes.
Yeah, okay, very good, thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this point in time, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the application? See no one responding. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application? See no one responding. Staff, anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. The applicant has 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you.
The applicant's good. That concludes this application. Mr. Pressman, did you sign in? Closes this item, and at this point, we'll move on to the next item on this morning's agenda.
Next item is item G2, variance 251422. The applicant is Gina Penny. The request is a variance to sign requirements. Staff findings will be presented by Michelle Montalbano.
Good morning, Michelle Montalbano, Development Services. The applicant is requesting a variance to permit a proposed wall sign on a building frontage which exceeds the maximum square aggregate sign area allowed. The applicant is requesting to install the 328.2 square foot Lowe's sign. The garden center and indoor lumberyard signs, our existing sign is proposed to remain on the same building elevation. Per LDC section 70300A2A, the maximum building sign area for each premises cannot exceed 1.25 feet per each linear foot of building frontage facing a public street or parking lot, but in no event more than 200 square feet of aggregate sign area. The subject building elevation has a frontage of approximately 500 linear feet. The applicant is requesting a variance of 232.6 square feet, resulting in an aggregate sign area of 432.6 square feet of sign area on the northern building elevation. The property received a master sign plan approval in 2004 for the original signage, but the master sign program is no longer in the LDC, so it's no longer regulatory. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Okay, thank you. No questions?
Okay.
Okay, at this point in time, the applicant.
If I have a presentation, do I just put it in the laptop?
She'll help you.
Yes, thank you. It's Gina Penny. I'm with Atlas Signs representing Lowe's. I'm coming from 1077 West Blue Heron Boulevard in West Palm Beach. We are requesting an exception. Lowe's is asking for relief from Code Section 7.03.00.A.2, maximum sign area. Granting approval of this request will permit the applicant to replace their existing business identification sign with one of equal design and size while retaining their current service signs at the connecting entrances. I've included a little bit of history. I won't go through all of it, but it's just generally telling you how they started in 1921 and where they're at today. This is Lowe's 1921, their first hardware store, and the Lowe's of today. The success of the first Lowe's granted them the ability to open across the nation 1,700 plus locations. I've also included some slides of Lowe's giving back to the community. They donate a lot of money to the communities to make them better through Habitat through Humanity, and they also do rebuilding together. So they have Red Vest employees that go out and they work in the community to help people that need help and assistance. The Lowe's team proudly serves approximately 16 million customer transactions per week in the United States. They celebrated 100 years of improvement a couple of years ago. Lowe's currently has over 300,000 associates through 1,700 stores in the United States. The proposed store will occupy, or does occupy, the parcel below. The parcel is on 14.66 acres with a total retail space of 156,413 square feet. The building is set back over 700 feet from the roadway and has linear frontage of over 500 feet. The existing Lowe's sign is currently 349 square feet. We're proposing to replace that sign with a sign that's 328.2 square feet, so a little bit smaller. And they also have two existing signs for their garden center and their indoor lumberyard. The request for exception in sign area, we are requesting exception to the allowable square footage per sign and total aggregate sign area. The existing sign was originally approved under a master sign plan. However, Hillsborough County no longer recognizes master sign plans or the approvals granted through them. The current Lowe's sign area is 349 square feet, and we're proposing a new sign measuring 328.2 square feet. In addition, there are 2 existing garden center indoor lumber that equal 103.9 square feet. This results in a total proposed sign area of 432.1 square feet, requiring a total square footage exception of 232.1 square feet. Per current code, sign area is limited to 1.25 square feet per linear foot of frontage, not to exceed 200 square feet. Strict application of this regulation would only allow 96.1 square feet for their main ID, the primary Lowe's identification sign. A sign limited to this sign would be disproportionately small and difficult to identify from the roadway. The proposed sign is consistent with Lowe's national branding, appropriately scaled for the building facade, and maintains clear visibility for customers in the community. The justification for the variance, this is a large retail location with multiple services and entrances. Enforcing the current sign regulations would severely limit the allowable square footage, restricting them visibly. Separate identification signs are essential to advertising the variety of services offered. Additionally, due to the site's extensive frontage and the building being set back approximately 700 feet from the roadway, a smaller sign would significantly reduce visibility to motorists. The proposed variance aligns with the general intent of the code, promoting safety, effective wayfinding, and improved traffic and parking flow. The signage design and branding are consistent with Lowe's national standards, ensuring a recognizable and cohesive appearance that complements the building facade. Strict enforcement of the sign code would deprive the business of the reasonable signage exposure it currently displays. Reducing the sign size to the allowed square footage could confuse potential customers and negatively impact visibility and brand recognition. In conclusion, the requested variance is the minimum necessary to maintain the store's current exposure, allow the Lowe's identification sign to perform at its fullest potential, and ensure the continued success of this establishment. Thank you for your time and consideration, and if you have any questions.
Okay, no questions at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I was told I had to leave this, so who do I leave this with? Thank you.
All right, at this point in time, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the application? See no one responding. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application? See no one responding. Staff, anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you.
And the applicant, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal if you wish. All right, very good. With that, that concludes this application. Ms. Marshall, we go move on to the next one.
Next item is item G3, variance 260017. The applicant is Todd Pressman. The request is a variance to sign requirements. Staff findings will be presented by Sam Ball.
Good morning, Sam Ball of Hillsborough County Development Services. The applicant is requesting a variance to accommodate the installation of multiple wall signs on a 625-foot wide facade of a large-scale retail building. Under Section A2 of LDC Part 730, the maximum building sign area for a subject property is 200 square feet on this face. The applicant is requesting an additional 486.1 square feet, which would result in up to 686.1 square feet of sign area on the northwest facing elevation of the building. This concludes my report. I'm available for any questions.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
And thank you.
The applicant, please.
Good morning, Mr. Hearing Officer and staff. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg, Florida. This site is located in the Apollo Beach area. You see it's located on 41, across street from Lacey Road, a little closer, located at Brander Mill and US 41. This was as the site was still being developed. The issue is wall signage. 686.025 square feet is proposed, 200 square feet is allowed, so it's a variance of 486.025 square feet. This is a large development which includes outparcels, Walmart, and there's actually a residential component which also surrounds the site. The site has 3 access points, 1 on US 41, 2 on Brander Mill. The total development site is 26 acres. The Walmart development site is 19.91 acres. So with the frontage of 630 feet, which is quite substantial, this is what the elevation looks like. And what we like to first present to you is that the store looks and acts like a multi-tenant. It's really sort of a hybrid use because they have a pharmacy use, wine and spirits, they have a sub-user, Dunkin', they have a grocery, Vision, home and fashion, pharmacy again, which is where the store is, and outdoor auto care. So these are very really singular, unique uses that are all presented by one owner, but looks and acts like a multi-tenant store. So by my math, if you looked at this site as a true multi-user, each separate user would be awarded their own square footage up to 200 square feet. The total square footage that could be allowed by my math is 787 square feet of wall signage, which would be done, like, for example, these are just examples, a bike store, Aldi, AMC, or Cane's. That amount to maximum could be 787 square feet. And again, as a bar graph, allowable is 787, what's proposed is 686. That's just on the front elevation. So the difficulty here is similar actually to the one that I presented earlier, which is the code has a difficulty working with larger sites, particularly with a user that is a multi-user that is actually a hybrid type of use. So the question is, how do we best use that and present it? But the reality is that all four walls under code are permitted wall signage. And why that's extreme, it is extreme, but that is the case in terms of how the sign code would present itself at the site. The other critical component here is at a 26-acre development site, when you have diverse uses, when you get to a site of this nature, they act as directional and orientation. When it's July or August and you have a massive parking lot, you want to be at least on the side of the store that your use is going to be at, whether that's the grocery or the Vision or the pharmacy. Mid-August, mothers with a couple kids, that's a critical determination that people can get, not just conveniently, but get functionally and best to at least the side of the store that they want to be at and the access point. So these are just some views from the distant sites. This is kind of mid-distance. This is, of course, as you drive in, you want to get some kind of directional element as to where you need to be going, which is what the what wall signage, once you're on site, provides. We are dealing with distances from the access points. From US 41, it's 720 feet MOL and approximately 500 feet MOL on Brander Mill. So regarding distances and how the code applies itself, we believe that it's a request that is supportable and meets variance criteria. So criteria 1, I think I've addressed the hardships, practical difficulties of how this site works for wall signage and how the sign code would provide tremendously more square footage that just isn't needed and doesn't work. And we want to put it where it belongs, not to other sides. The south side is residential. It would deprive rights that others enjoy, certainly as a multi-tenant store and as a hybrid multi-tenant store in terms of square footage. It will not interfere the rights with others. We did send out 22 notices. I checked last night again, there was no opposition. Haven't heard from anyone. This would allow signage that multi-tenant stores or multi-tenant developments normally have. That would meet the general intent and purpose of the LDC and the comp plan in terms of how that difference presents itself and the size of the site. The signs are not up, so it's not a legal act. And we do believe it provides substantial justice being done, considering the public benefits for access, directional, and use of the store as compared to others. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just one clarification for me, because in the record, there's directional comments about it faces northwest and, northeast. If you put up the site plan for just a second, just want to make it crystal clear for the record where the wall signage is located.
Oh, sure.
That's all.
Is that up? Yeah, I do have one graphic that will show that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there. So the red arrow indicates where the wall signage will go.
All right, it's all along whatever that facing wall is. I guess that's, what would you call that, northwest?
Yeah, we could say directed towards US 41.
Yeah, that's perfect, right?
Okay.
Parallel to 41.
Sure.
All right, very good. That's all I have. Thank you. All right, at this point in time, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the application? There's no one responding. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application? See no one responding. Staff, anything further?
Nothing further.
All right, very good. The applicant has 5 minutes for rebuttal. Thank you. All right, very good. With that concludes this application. Ms. Marshall, we'll move on to the next item.
This brings us to Section H, variance request. Item H1, variance 251340. The applicant is Laritza Lopez. The request is a variance to accessory structure requirements. Staff findings will be presented by Jared Fullen.
Morning.
Good morning. Jared Fallon with Development Services. So this is a request for a variance to accessory structure standards to allow an existing accessory structure to occupy more than 20% of the required rear yard. Land Code Section 6114C3 states that accessory structures may occupy required rear yards, provided that such structures do not occupy more than 20% of the required rear yard. The subject accessory structure occupies 33%, which is an increase of 13. There is a code compliance case on this structure that was issued on November 15th, 2024. I'm happy to answer any other questions for you.
Not at this time. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
The applicant, please. Staff, have we heard from the applicant at all about their attendance this morning?
No.
Okay. How about this? How about if we temporarily move this to the end of the agenda? I mean, I don't know how long this agenda is going to last, but we give them a little while to show up if they intend to. Move it to the very end. We'll come back to it.
Sure.
All right, so let's move variance 25-1340 to the end of this morning's agenda, and we'll come back and reopen it and hear it if we can at that point in time. In the meanwhile, if staff could reach out to the applicant and see if they intend on showing up this morning. All right, very good. We'll do that. So, Ms. Marshall, if we could then, hold this in abeyance, and if you could announce the next case.
Next item is H2, variance 251355. The applicant is Andrea Purcell. The request is a variance to lot development standards. Staff findings will be presented by Tanya Chapella.
Good morning. This is Tanya Chapella, Development Services. So the applicant is requesting a variance to accommodate a carport extension attached to the existing primary home. So this lot is zone ASC 1, and the lot configuration is kind of unique. So the request is for something that we call the special yard. And in this case, the requirement to that lot line would be 50 feet. So it's a special yard that is serving as a rear yard. So the requirement is 50 feet. The applicant is requesting to reduce that 50 feet to 25 feet. So that will be the result, 20-foot special yard rear setback. And this concludes my report.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I have no questions at this time. Is the applicant here? two in a row.
I'm not, I work for the contractor. The applicant is here. I see her on the call.
Okay. I don't have, unless anybody from staff has any issues, I don't have a problem with the contractor representing the applicant.
Andrea, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, do you, as the applicant, does the contractor represent your interests?
Yes, he does.
All right, there we go. I think that does it for me. All right, go ahead, sir.
Yes, the area in question, the house is very rural. It sits about 600 feet off of Sam Allen Road. And as the lady stated, it is a very unique property. She has a little over 8 acres. And at one point in time, there was a 1 acre section cut out kind of near the back middle. So the rear setback is not really the rear of the property. So the area, it's in the middle of the property, not the rear. We contend that this is a very unique property. It's not standard, it's very rural. And there was a structure there that was in violation of the setback. That structure has been removed. So we feel extending the carport would not only give her more space to do what she needs to do, it would also improve the area because we removed the building that was in violation. We don't feel that this variance will interfere with the rights of others because it is further away from the property line than the previous structure that was there. And we feel like this is in harmony because it will have zero impact on anything in terms of the LDC or the comprehensive plans, as it is very rural. Let's see here. We feel like the result of substantial justice being done, because this is rural Plant City on an 8-acre property, we don't feel like it will affect anyone. Failure to grant this variance would result in her being unable to, extend this structure. She has utility vehicles. She has things that she would like to, keep inside. It would help her out tremendously, consolidate all that inside, and we feel like it would beautify the property. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, just let me know.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir. I have no questions at this time. Okay.
Thank you.
At this point in time, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the application?
Can he state his name and address?
Sir, state your name and address for the
Yes,
record.
sir. My name is Chris Montgomery, and my address is 3338 Purley Drive, Lakeland, Florida, 33812.
And also, can the applicant state their name and address?
Yes, my name is Andrea Purcell, 1901 West Sam Allen, Plant City, Florida.
Okay. Return back to the procedures here. Is anyone in the audience wish to speak in support of the application? Is no one responding? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application? Is no one responding? Development Services, anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. And the applicant has 5 minutes for rebuttal. I believe nothing further from the applicant. So at this point in time, I will close this item, and staff are ready for the next item.
This item is item H3, variance 251414. The applicant is Todd Pressman. The request is a variance to landscaping and buffering requirements. Staff findings will be presented by Chris Granlenard.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Chris Granlenard, Development Services. We're to present variance application 25-1414 concerning the property located at 17324 North US Highway 41 in Lutz. It's zoned commercial general. This is a request for variances to land development code sections 6.06.04.c and 6.06.04.e. Due to the existing site layout and building placement, which were shaped by a 1994 FDOT order of taking and long-standing non-conforming conditions. The specific variances requested are from LDC Section 6.06.04.c, which requires an 8-foot wide landscape buffer between an off-street vehicular use area and an adjacent right-of-way. 0-foot buffer is proposed along the north property line fronting Dennison Road. And the next variance request is to LDC Section 6.06.04.e, which requires a 6-foot wide landscape buffer between an off-street vehicular use area and any non-road facing property boundary. A 0-foot boundary, 0-foot buffer is proposed along the west property line. This site was granted a legal non-conforming structure status in 2024, confirming that the building has existed in its current configuration since 1988, with a front yard setback of just 0.7 feet due to the FDOT taking. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Just, if you know, could you clarify if it's been in its current configuration since 1988, why are we here this morning?
Pardon?
If it's been in this configuration since 1988, why are we here this morning? If you don't know, I'll ask the applicant, then you can respond after the applicant's done if you'd like.
The setbacks haven't, but they had the FDOT taking that took part of the property away to the west, or to the east, for the widening of 41. If you wanted to speak to the applicant.
Yeah, I can jump in, and I'll get the specifics for you. I believe that there was a site development case or application that was submitted. I don't remember the specifics. I can grab that for you. That was triggering some of the improvements for the landscaping, and that's what's triggering the request for the variance.
Okay, so they're in for site plan approval for some modifications to the addition
Correct.
layout?
Yes, current.
Correct.
All right, that would explain.
Yes.
Okay, very
That's
good.
why this case is coming.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, at this point in time, the applicant, please.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Officer, staff. Todd Pressman, 200 Second Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. So to answer the question, as Ms. Marshall indicated, that is what generated the issue. So we are located in the Lutz area and on US 41 at Dennison Road. This is the Big Tires Auto Repair Shop. The issue is a variance for two elements, as staff indicated: reduction of the side yard from 8 to 0, reduction of the rear yard from 6 to 0. And as you indicated, was built and in service as an auto repair since 1988 per property appraiser record. I do want to say up front that in the record, and I'll put this in the record as well, is a letter from the Lutz Civic Association in support of the variance, noting the property, as they indicated, operated as family-owned tire alignment shop since 1988, changed ownership to another family. Notes the widening taking in the late 1990s and constrained the operating space for the business. Therefore, the Lutz Civic Association asked to approve the variance. Now, I will say, which is unusual in my presenting, is when you look at this prior approval, which I put in the record, it's in optics. I don't normally refer to another variance because variances stand their own singular, but that variance approval is exactly similar to what we're asking for today, a site that had property taking and was constrained and touches upon the different points that I'll present to you today. So I think that's an important consideration, which normally you don't see in variances, but I think that is a parameter we would like you to consider.
Just, Preston, just clarify that for me.
Oh.
There's another variance that is similar, setting precedent, essentially?
In a sense, yes,
Yeah.
to the south, located to the south,
Okay.
yes, correct.
Got
And
it.
that's in optics for you.
All right?
So the site located on US Highway 19 at Dennison Road, as I showed you here. per the property appraiser. Current conditions, there's an access on Denison, access on US 41. Now, it has 4 repair bays to the north and 2 repair bays that are on the west. You'll see the rectangle in the center that says auto repair bays. That is the repair bay current building, upon which the 4 access points to the building are to the north, 2 access points are located to the west. These are the 4 that are located to the north, actually showing 3 of them. And the conditions here are that the site is constrained. And Mr. Granlund referred to it as well as a property taking. So when you have parking spaces that are pulling in and out and auto repair bays that are pulling in and out, that does create conflict. The last thing we want to do is reduce or shorten that. It's the same thing on the west, where we have 2 points of access from the building, parking and vehicle circulation on the site. Now, this is an unusual site for vehicular parking because they have a lot of cars coming every day. They have large vehicles, they have small vehicles, they even sometimes have small tractors that come for service, as you would normally see. Some of the vehicles are inoperable. They have to be pushed in the garage or pushed out. Like I said, some are large. There's tow trucks that come to pick up and drop off vehicles. So it's a much different circulation requirement than you would typically see at a CG use. So under the site plan review, the buffer takes 8 feet. Comparison, under the site plan review, we'd be reduced to 26.1 feet, where currently we have 34.1. So that difference of that buffer makes a tremendous difference in that circulation area that we need to preserve as much room as we can. The right-of-way will remain, showing here. The plans show the right-of-way with a sidewalk at 8.7 feet. So where the buffer is required at 8 feet, we're seeking 0. There is right-of-way that will remain at a total of 8.7 feet, but again, 5 feet of that is sidewalk. And that shows the right-of-way area here that will remain. This shows the west side, the 6-foot buffer, which we are asking for 0 as well due to the same reasons and situation. As Mr. Granlund indicated, there was an NCU front setback finding because of the property taking. The order of taking I have in the record for you, which indicates that 4,688 square foot of the subject property was taken in 1994. This is 1991 aerial, just as a matter of reference, which doesn't show too well, but you can see the amount of area that was taken from this earlier 1995 aerial. I show it as more or less 76 feet from US 41 that was existing. And this is the current condition. As you can see, that building is right up against the right-of-way, which was, again, part of the NCU approval. And these are just some photos just to really show you the use of the site under CG permissible use, how they're dealing with vehicles and how that 8-foot and 6-foot buffer area is really important to preserve. See, sometimes they have larger trucks. You see they have a tow truck type element there. See, sometimes vehicles come in with a trailer. And then this is the west side. You can see sometimes they're working on cars outside. This is a reference to 24108, which is to the south on US 41, which is the variance I was referring to.
Okay.
And it recognized and approved the long-term structure, the constraint straight, and the property taking as well. So with that, I'll put this letter in the record. And looking at the variance criteria, I think I've referred very clearly to the hardship and difficulty of the site. It would deprive rights of others to have good, clear, safe, as good as possible functional circulation. We don't believe it will injure or affect anyone because it's on site. We did send out 20 notices, haven't heard back from anyone. I checked last night, there was no opposition in that respect. 41 is, of course, a major arterial roadway. It would meet with the general intent and purpose of the LDC and be in harmony. That would provide the site to continue to function at a good functional level. Does not result from legal act or result from actions of the applicant. And we believe substantial justice would be done considering the public benefits for the operation of the site for the public. happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just one question then, could you just give a little flavor, a minute on, they're in for site plan approval for some modifications to the site. Could you give me a little sense of what that request is?
Yeah, let me see if I can show it here. Can we pull the PowerPoint up again, please? Okay, so I don't think the cursor will show, no. But if you see the auto repair bays, behind it is a concrete walk area. They've added an addition for storage. So they're going through, and that generated site plan review and elements of this nature. But that element is a storage element that does not impact on the west or the north.
Okay, and so because of your submittal of that design plan for approval by staff, somehow the landscape buffer issue,
Yep, meet today's code.
okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this point in time, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the application? Is no one responding? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application? Is no one responding? Staff, anything further?
Nothing further.
Do you,
Unless you have any-
if you could, send me
Sure.
that site development plan?
Yep, sure. The number is 6957, and it was for, the description was a lean-to metal shed that was added. It's directly to the south of the rear of the building.
Awesome.
And that's what triggered
All right,
that.
thank you. All right, applicant has 5 minutes for rebuttal. All right, very good. Thank you, sir. With that, that concludes this application. Staff ready for the next item.
Next item is item H4, variance 251445. The applicant is Daniel M. Highsmith. The request is a variance to accessory dwelling requirements. Staff findings will be presented by Logan McCaig.
Morning, Logan McCaig, Development Services, variance 251445. The applicant is requesting a variance to lot development standards for the purpose of converting an existing accessory structure into an accessory dwelling unit. Per section 61102E and 60101, the applicant or an accessory dwelling shall meet the principal building setbacks for ASC 1 district. That is a 15-foot side yard setback. The existing structure exists 3 feet from the property line, as is permitted for accessory structures. So the variance would be for a 12-foot, resulting in the 3-foot setback. It was found during review that the property is a non-conforming lot. The applicant applied for said non-conforming lot review, NCL 251465, and was approved as a legal non-conforming lot.
Okay. All right, thank you. And the applicant, please?
Yes, good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. First of all, my apologies for not being there this morning. The federal government has decided I'm better used down in South Texas with the U.S. Coast Guard Reserve. So, fortunately, away from home right now.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, and thank you for your service.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your support. My name is Daniel Highsmith. I'm the owner of the property at 11606 Monette Road. I'm submitting this variance request in good faith as a homeowner and father, seeking only to make safe and legal improvements to my property to benefit my daughter. My daughter Haley suffered a massive stroke at the age of 17. Today, she is 21 years old and wheelchair bound. Like any young adult, she dreams of some independence and having her own space where she can live safely and with dignity. And to help her achieve this, I began the process of upgrading a small existing accessory structure on my property, a 16 by 20 wood utility building constructed in 2004, into an ADA compliant cottage designed specifically for her needs. Unfortunately, after paying my general contractor $59,000, he abandoned the project when it was about 70% complete. He did not apply for the necessary zoning variance, permits, or architectural drawings, and I was left with a partially finished structure, significant financial loss, and the responsibility of trying to make things right. I'm not a developer or an investor. I'm simply a homeowner trying to comply with the law while creating a safe, accessible home for my daughter. The variance I'm requesting relates only to the setback standards. The structure already exists and has stood in its location for more than 20 years without issue. My request is not to expand or intrude further, but only to allow me to complete this structure as habitable space under the proper code standards. I believe granting this variance serves both the intent of the Land Development Code and the broader public interest, as it will ensure existing structure is brought into full compliance with residential code standards. provide an ADA accessible dwelling for my daughter, enhancing her independence and not negatively impacting my neighbors, since the structure already exists and is not expanding in footprint. In fact, my direct neighbors who share the property line have expressed their full support for the project. Respectfully ask for your consideration of my circumstances. This request is not about financial gain or increasing density. It's about doing what's right by my family and correcting deficiencies left by a contractor and creating a safe space where my daughter can call her own. Thank you for your time today. Stand by for any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. No questions.
Thank you, sir.
At this point in time, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the application? See no one responding. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application? See no one responding. Staff, anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. And sir, any final comments?
None here, sir.
Very good. Thank you, sir. With that concludes this application, and staff are ready for the next item.
Next item is item H5, variance 25-1447. The applicant is Okaloosa Tampa Properties LLC. The request is a variance to minimum lot size by available utilities. Staff findings will be presented by Orlando Boris.
Good morning, Orlando Borras with Development Services. As my colleague Colleen already mentioned, this is a variance to the minimum lot sizes by available utilities, and it's going to be on 2 lots. Currently, the Land Development Code Section 60106 requires at least half an acre on each lot for the use of septic. In this case, the result is going to be 0.16 acres on each lot, allowing, of course, the use of septic. As it's mentioned in the findings of facts, the parcels, I apologize, are undeveloped, and the property owner, as I mentioned, is seeking this variance to allow the use of septic for these 2 lots. In addition to that, I apologize, utilities are going to be provided by the City of Tampa in the area, and it's also, in my opinion, very important to mention that the applicant already has a permit from the Health Department of Florida for the use of septic. Should you have any questions, more than happy to answer them.
Has the City of Tampa Public Water and Sewer Department been approached and asked them about the availability of public sewer?
I will defer that question to the applicant in this case.
Okay, I'll wait till it's his turn. Are there any other Land Development Code standards that talk about making assessments of the point of connection and the financial feasibility of connecting, and if it is feasible, they're required to connect?
I believe there was an amendment to the Land Development Code around August. I don't remember exactly the date for that amendment. That is right. We did an assessment internally about the nearest point of connection. In this case, it's around more or less 500 feet from the property. However, any financial assessment have not been done by staff.
All right, thank you very much. All right, at this point in time, the applicant, please.
Morning.
Morning.
My name is Human Kastravi. I'm representing the client for property 6430 Orange Street and 4945 East Diana Street. The historic half of the pattern, the geometry of the parcel is historically divided within the neighborhood to 2 equal halves. The dual street frontage reduced the buildable area in ways not typical for interior lots. Both parcels are recognized with Hillsborough County property appraisal with separate folios. And this would not adverse any impact on any of the neighborhood properties. And basically, this condition arises from historic platting and corner configuration. There were not any closed sewer to tap into for this property, so the client would like to take advantage of the same requirement with the septic as it is to other neighbors.
Yeah, if I may just ask on that topic, has the City of Tampa Utility department been contacted regarding connection to public sewer?
Yes, sir.
And do you have any evidence of that?
I do not. The owner directly met with the utility department, and they let him know that there's no availability for the public sewer.
Let me ask staff, is there any way to supplement the file with any comments from the city of Tampa? If they exist, I mean, we could reach out to the city and find out.
We find out,
I don't think that our land development code permits that at this juncture. If it's not part of the record at the
Right.
conclusion of the evidence
Right.
today, I think that we're limited to
Right.
whatever's on the record today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, you may proceed.
So I was explaining that granting the variance allows reasonable use consistent with the neighborhood, while denied would impose a disproportionate burden specific to this parcel's unique condition, public interest, safety, compatibility, and code compliance are preserved. That's it.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay. All right, at this point in time, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the application? No one responding? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application? Yes, sir. Please come forward. If you could, please state your name and address for the record.
Good morning. My name is Lawrence Thomas. Address is 6429 North 49th Street, Tampa, Florida. I'm not in opposition of the splitting of the lot. I've got a safety concern about the lots, so that in the future, as the lots are developed, those lots are heavily trees on the lot. Last year we had, during the storm season, there was a couple of trees that actually came down and fell on the lot, fell across the street, blocked the roadway and everything. I live on the west side of that lot, and there's currently, as you see it on the top two pictures here, shows 2 oak trees there that are basically rotten. And the real problem I've got with it is that on the bottom picture here, left here, you see my pink, that shows my actual house here. There was also horizontal limbs that extend 30 feet onto my property from there. Okay. That's only about 10 feet from my house. Last year I cut it back some, but it's still, it's very dangerous.
You gave your address, but are you directly adjacent property owner?
I'm directly next to it.
Gotcha.
I'm directly next to it. The picture here shows, the middle picture here, shows on the west side of my property, facing east, how massive those trees are. So my biggest concern with it is that when they develop those properties with 2 houses, whatever it is, the person who's moved in, they're gonna have the same problem I've got. It's a ticking time bomb. So if those trees can be pruned down safely or removed and put another safer trees in there, that's my only concern with it. I don't have a problem at all with the rezoning of it to 2 partials.
All right, good. Thank you, sir.
Right.
If you could sign in with the clerk's office. All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application?
Hi, yes, I'd like to, please.
Sorry, what was that comment?
Yes, I'd like to speak if I could.
Oh, yes? State your
Perfect.
name.
Yes, sir. Name is David Nix. Address is 6428 Orange Street. I'm living in the parcel directly south of the parcel in question.
Okay.
I basically would like to echo the same concerns from the previous person who spoke. We've had similar issues where trees along the property line have dropped very large limbs on our property, including damaging my fence that already exists there. And so similarly, I don't have any issues at all with the splitting of the lot. That's completely fine, no issues there, but definitely would like to address some of the trees on the lot.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Is no one responding? Staff, anything further?
Just want to clarify for the record, there were some changes that were approved by the Board of County Commissioners in August of this year to section 40203 that allow for the parent parcel to be split into up to 3 lots without being required to connect to wastewater service.
Okay, could you send me that
Yes.
code provision?
Yes.
Or if you know it.
I'm looking for, I don't think that it's in Muni code yet. I'm just
Okay.
trying to find the exact.
Okay.
And so with that, then they still have to meet the 60106
Right.
for the lot size for use of septic, which is why they're here for the variance.
Right.
But as long as they meet the, and then they would also meet their zoning lot size requirement. But so if they were meeting the lot size for use of septic, then they wouldn't need the variance and they would be able to split into up
Okay.
to 3 lots from the parent parcel without,
So procedurally, you'll get that to me in X number of days.
yes, yep, I can get you that.
All right.
Mhm.
As long as
Yeah.
the county attorney's office staff is fine with that.
Yes.
All right, very good. And question for you then is about the tree comments. When they go through permitting, preliminary plat, final platting, well, I guess it's already platted, but review of the construction plans for the homes, there's a tree review, if you know.
Believe, so Natural Resources would review if they're splitting the property. I don't know to what extent they would be looking at the trees.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, the applicant has opportunity for rebuttal. Sir, if I could get you to come forward for a second.
Yes, sir.
Should the variance get approved, what's the procedure moving forward, if you know?
There will be building 2 single-family residents with RSC9 zoning. And I believe the tree issue will be also resolved because they'll have to remove some of those trees in order to build a new building in that lot.
Okay, very good. Anything else?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right, with that, that concludes this application. Staff ready for the next item.
Next item is item H6, variance 251450. The applicant is Lisa Gerton. The request is a variance to fence requirements. Staff findings will be provided by Sierra James.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Actually, I'm sorry, the staff goes first.
I'm sorry?
Staff presents
Yeah,
first.
Oh,
And-
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Good morning, Sierra James with Development Services. The applicant is seeking a variance to the required fence standards. Per LDC Section 60702, the maximum fence height is 6 feet. The applicant would like a variance of 2 feet, resulting in a 8-foot high fence. Any questions?
Don't believe so. Thank you.
Thank you.
The applicant, please.
Hello. My
Morning.
name is Lisa Gerton, and I represent Valley View Townhomes. The property is located at 1301 Valley Groves Drive in Sefner. The variance is 251450. We are requesting approval for an 8-foot chain link fence due to the existing 8-foot chain link fence suffered damage during Hurricane Milton from large trees, and we are looking to replace the 8-foot fence without barbed wire.
Okay, let me ask you, it's a big piece of property? Are you planning on doing an 8-foot chain link fence around the entire perimeter of the property?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there was an existing 8-foot fence around the entire perimeter?
Yes, sir.
Of the property? Okay. Understood, thank you.
Thank you.
At this point in time, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the application? See no one responding. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application? Yes, sir. Just come forward.
Good morning. My name is Michael Bishop. My address is 3523 Landmark Trail in Palm Harbor, Florida.
Okay.
I'm here to represent the owner and operator of the the affordable housing complex North Grove Manor Apartments, which is directly adjoined to the north of this property in question with their fence. I'm here to kind of suggest our owner sent a letter on November 6th in opposition of this variance request, citing that the fence itself at 8 foot exceeds what the standard is, and it's unsightly, and with the addition of the barbed wire, which they have taken down, remains a mystery as to why that was necessary. We have a 6-foot vinyl fence on our side of that property that meets all requirements and permitting, so we don't understand the need to have an additional 2-foot chain link fence along that side of our property.
I happen to notice there is fencing in various shapes, sizes, materials, in various locations around the perimeter of the property.
Right. And on top of that, we just recently had a survey done of the property line where that fence, the fence of that property, budges into our property line and over our property line, so we'd like to have that removed.
Okay. Not sure I can address that issue, but
fair enough.
There's our encroachments, and there are ways to deal with encroachments.
Right.
All right, anything else?
Nope, that's all I have.
All right, very good.
All right,
Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application? See no one responding. Staff, anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you.
And the applicant? Ma'am, if you could come forward. Just have one question for you. The gentleman that just spoke, he said there's an existing 6-foot tall vinyl fence along the shared property boundary with his client. I don't know if you're aware of that situation, and have you considered the need for 8-foot fence behind his 6-foot fence?
It's more for safety issues. I mean, we've had a lot of trespassing onto the property, and it's just more for safety issues. We did have a CPT crime preventative assessment done, and that was one of the things that was on that assessment. But what we're replacing is the existing.
Right. Understood. Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Up, sir?
No more.
Okay.
I was just going to add one piece of information context. The property that we own.
Hold on, sir. Come forward. Okay. And then I'll allow the applicant an opportunity to rebut if they so desire. But if you could leave it short.
Yeah, just for context, the nature of our property is a 31-unit family property for affordable housing. We have approximately 50 tenants there, 76% of which are elderly.
Could you please state your name again for the record?
Michael Bishop.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
So,
Thank you for that information.
You bet.
Thank you. And the applicant, you have an opportunity to rebut what the gentleman just spoke to? I see, any further comment? Okay, very good. Thank you. With that, that concludes this application. We're ready for the next item.
This brings us to Section I, Special Uses. Item I-1, Special Use 24-1440. The applicant is Todd Pressman. The request is a special use 3 PS alcoholic beverage permit with separation waivers. Tanya Chappella will provide staff findings after presentation by the applicant.
Tanya Chappella, Development Services. So
it goes the other way.
The applicant goes first.
Good morning, hearing officer and staff. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. This is special use AB 25-1440. I will say to you from the start that the approval of the separation waivers, which I'm reading from the staff report, that there are special or unique circumstances where the alcohol beverage use applied for does not have significant impact on surrounding land uses, and certain circumstances negate the necessity of the specific distance requirements. I will say to you as I walk you through them, I think there are substantial reasons and purposes for the distance separation as presented under AB 25-1440. So we are located in the Brandon area. Looking closer, per the property appraiser, we're located at the corner of Kingsway Road and Brandon Boulevard. Excuse me. Looking a little closer at the intersection, the site is contained by a large commercial structure. The west side is occupied by Aldi. The east side is the subject site. So the issue is a 3 PS, which would provide for off-premise beer, wine, and liquor sales. The proposed tenant, which would be under contract if approved, is ABC Fine Wine and Spirits. They have an exemplary long-term record of operations in Florida. All their salespeople are well-trained. I spoke with the ABC people. They do a very aggressive training. All sales and transactions are verified immediately through the state. They currently have 125 stores throughout Florida. It's still a family-owned business since 1936. There is a positive track record for alcohol sales from the site at 620 East Brandon Boulevard, both for Albertsons and Aldi. State Route 60, as I'm sure you're aware, is an 8-lane divider roadway carrying 62,000 vehicles per day at the 2020 measurement by the Planning Commission. First element of support is that the focus of activity is towards the front, towards Brandon Boulevard. Those are the doors. That's where the main entrances are. That's where the main parking is. There is no access wall, and there's no access, and there's an existing wall and forestation along the rear of the site. As I've indicated, where those words are indicating is that buffering and screening. So this would be a view of the rear. You can see the concrete wall and the extensive forestation screening between the uses. You can see the stores to the right. I may have missed a slide here. Yes, on this area you can see the substantial forestation that is very dense, very thick, very high between the proposed site and the uses to the rear. Zoning is a mix. There's BPOs, which exist immediately to the right of the site. The site is a PD, and then you have CG uses. I'm sorry. You have CG uses surrounding the east and west and north as you're close to Brandon Boulevard. Looking closer at the surrounding uses and owners, of course, along Brandon Boulevard, you have a Culver's commercial, you have an auto repair commercial, and a salon and muffler shop abutting Brandon Boulevard. Behind that is the salon and restaurant parking. Now, interestingly enough, what would appear to be residential along Ridgewood, I've designated as Hillsborough County owned for fire station. All those parcels have been sold to Hillsborough County. I spoke with Chris Rideout, who's the real estate officer for Hillsborough County, and those parcels will be converted to fire department use. So there is no residential along Ridgewood Avenue. And along Kingsway, you'll have one of the community uses behind the Culvers. Looking Ridgeway North, you can see the muffler shop. The site is to the left. You can see there's a large cell tower. Well, it's a tower for communications for the fire department. And Kingsway, which is on the west, is a median roadway which provides further mitigation, and at this point goes from a 2-lane, or goes from a 4-lane to a 2-lane. This is on the west side of the property. So looking at the staff report, the staff looks at 608 and 603 East Morgan as the two closest community uses, which is Shining Star and for kids. And when you look at that site, I have it at approximately 1,093 feet, for the pedestrian path. The staff had it at 930. But the buildings itself provide screening and separation between those two uses. So you can see that they're significantly isolated. Pedestrian-wise, of course, is a very long walk behind there. With the no access to the rear and the wall forestation provides a really good, exceptional screening and buffering. And again, focus of the store is in the opposite direction towards State Route 60. And the Shining Stars focus is towards East Morgan to the rear. Staff looked at the church at 705 East Brandon Boulevard as the closest community use in that regard, which obviously is across the 8-lane East Brandon Boulevard arterial road, which includes a lot of vegetation, which is the buffering screening required by both uses, and parking lots. So there's tremendous separation between those two uses. 611 East Morgan is the closest residential owned, and that's located by the drop pin from the property appraiser. And again, that follows the same function of the long pedestrian route focused to East Morgan, opposite the store, and the wall, no access, and forestation between the uses. Staff notes they finds the proposed wet zoning does not propose significant impacts on surrounding land uses, and the necessity for the specified distance requirement is negated. So with that, we did send out 65 separate notices. The big yellow signs have been out there. And as I checked last evening, there were no letters or emails in the record. Happy to answer any questions.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now staff. Mr. Pressman, could you sign in?
Tanya Chapela, Development Services. So the applicant requests a 3PS special use alcoholic beverage permit to allow for sale of beer, wine, and liquor to be sold in sealed containers only for consumption of the permitted premises. So that would be a package sales. The property is on PD, and which allows the host use and consideration of the proposed wet zoning. So we are working with two distance separation requirements that are not complying with the requirement. It will be a distance to certain community uses that shall be 500 feet, and distance to residentially zoned property, which shall be 250 feet. The applicant applied for another distance separation requirement, which is the number of alcoholic beverage uses within 1,000 feet of the wet zoning area. However, it does comply with the requirement after reviewing the survey. Then there is an existing alcoholic beverage on the folio number that is going to be rescinded if this application is approved. The number is 80-0827.
And just for the record, what's that approved for?
That is a 3PS.
Okay.
It's the same type of license. However, the amount of square footage for the existing proposal is bigger. So it includes that area, but it doesn't, I mean, it's going to expand the existing entitlement.
Okay.
We have 3 community uses. The applicant already went through all of them, but I'm going to explain those again. We have a preschool on Morgan Street, a church across Brandon Boulevard, and a preschool also in Morgan Street. We have a residential property to the north. So the distance to the proposed structure to certain community use, we're going to have a waiver distance of 418 feet, and the resulting separation is 82 feet. And then for the residentially zoned property, the resulting separation would be 171 feet. The applicant already explained all the justifications, so I would just say that the staff find the proposed wet zoning are not posing a significant impact on surrounding land uses, and the necessity for the specified distance requirement is negated. So this concludes my presentation.
That's very good. Thank you. I don't believe for ABs we need to hear from the Planning Commission staff. At this point in time, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the application? Is no one responding? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in opposition to the application? Is no one responding? Staff, anything further?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Applicant, an opportunity for rebuttal.
No, thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you, sir. All right, with that, that concludes this item. And staff, we will return back to an item we brought up earlier, but the applicant was not here. It was application variance 25-1340. Do we know if the applicant is joining us?
I've not been able to get a hold of them.
The County Attorney's Office have any recommendation as to how we proceed?
You have the ability to continue the matter to the next agenda that we have time to get them notice on. Which one would that be, Ms. Marshall? January 12th? Mr. Hearing Officer?
Okay, staff, do you have an opinion what we should do?
Typically, when we can't get a hold of them, we just end up having to continue the case.
Okay. All right, let the record reflect. We've reached out to the applicant. We've tried to get a hold of them. We were unable to. In the best interest of the applicant and give them an opportunity to present their position, let's continue this item to the next hearing. You said it was January 12th.
Yes.
9 o'clock a.m. in these chambers. And you will reach out to the applicant and let them know?
Yes.
And let them know it'd be a good idea if they could attend. Okay?
Yes.
All right. With that's the last item on to this morning's agenda. So we are adjourned. Thank you all.